is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, in an exclusive interview to Israeli TV, U.S. President Barack Obama warns Israelis of the loss of democratic values. We'll take a closer look at what the American president really thinks of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel marks 1 year since Israeli teenagers Gilad Sher, Naftali Frankel, and Eyal Ifrach were murdered by Hamas terrorists in an incident that sparked last summer's Gaza war. And later on the show, something entirely different. Planet Shark, Predator or Prey, the only comprehensive shark experience to tour the world, has arrived to the Middle East. We are there in the flesh. Good morning, I'm Yael Avi, and we begin with the exclusive interview Israeli Channel 2 got with President Barack Obama, given to Israeli TV's seasoned journalist Ilana Dayan yesterday. U.S. President Barack Obama addressed his concerns in the interview about the state of Israel. Facing tough questions, the American president yet again exemplified a worldview that most likely was not well received in the Jerusalem living room of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who we presume was watching. Now, though it is no secret that the two leaders are not the closest of friends, it was an extraordinary moment when Obama, in what can be perceived as a direct jab at the last Israeli election results and towing a line with Netanyahu's critics, warned the Israeli public of losing Jewish values and the country's democracy if the current path of government continues. In the interview, the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, or lack thereof, and its low chances of being on the American foreign policy agenda in the next year and a half left on his presidency was also discussed. Obama addressed head-on the issue of Iran and the looming deal of June 30th that is the divisive thorn between him and the Israeli prime minister. Now, to take a closer look at what the American president really thinks, I am joined in studio by our very, very esteemed, fabulous USA-Israel team. I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning. Thank you for being with us. Also by Sheldon Shore, head of Democrats Abroad. I'm pronouncing that right? I'm doing that correct?
Yeah.
Completely, okay.
I'm a spokesman counsel.
Spokesman counsel, there we go. By Yaakov Dayan, former Israeli consul in Los Angeles. Thank you for being with us. And of course, by Mark Zell. And I'm giving you the world vice president for Republicans overseas.
That's right. Shalom.
Shalom, there we are. So let's try and break this one down, because all these issues that were discussed yesterday, both Iran, Palestinian, Israeli peace process, whatnot, possibly the most overlining agenda above all of them was the personal relationship between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Obama that was felt throughout the interview. And let's see what the American president had to say, or had to maybe send a message to the Israeli prime minister in the middle of that interview. Let's have a listen.
You thought, Mr. President, the speech was destructive to the fabric of the relations, to take the words of your national security advisor, Susan Rice?
You know what? Some things are in the past. I think it's fair to say that if I showed up at the Knesset without checking with the Prime Minister first, if I had negotiated with Mr. Herzog, that, you know, there would be a sense of some protocols that had been breached.
We're going to start straight with the relationship between the two leaders, and for that, Tal Shalev, I-24 News diplomatic correspondent here. This is, in a very PC way, one can say, you know, maybe the president is saying let bygones be bygones, but he's referring to the speech Netanyahu gave. Over in that interview, when you listened to it, it was clear, and the interviewer, Yolanda Yan, was trying to make the point that the two leaders do not like each other. What is the feeling this morning, over the course of the last 24 hours, in the Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem?
Well, I think, first of all, from the Prime Minister's point of view and also from the administration's point of view, this is another tit-for-tat exchange between Netanyahu and Obama regarding the Iran deal. At the essence of it, this is part of the president's effort in the past few weeks to A, defend the Iran deal, and B, to explain his positions towards the new Israeli right-wing government, and explain his comments after the elections that were widely criticized in the United States, even amongst staunch supporters of the Democratic Party. There was a feeling that the administration might have went too far, and this is part of Obama's outreach on this topic. But yes, here he's speaking to the Israeli people, And Netanyahu tries to preempt this. Just a few hours before the interview, Netanyahu gives a statement visiting a home front command drill in which he explains why the Iran deal is bad and again reiterates his concern for the security of Israel. So basically, we see Obama trying to assure the Israeli public how that this is a good deal. At the same time, he's explaining, and this is where his criticism comes in about the Jewish or democratic values of the country. This comes up because he's trying to explain the administration's position regarding the new government.
Regarding the new government, Yaki Dayan, from a man who was in public, in service, so to speak, for the Israeli government. You're listening. You're looking at this interview. This is, as Tal Shalev is describing, it's this odd situation where both leaders are speaking to each other via media, but there is no direct connection in many, many, many ways. How detrimental is this? We have been discussing many times Israel-U.S. relationship are in the lowest point ever. But this is the American president basically going over the Israeli prime minister's head and speaking to the Israeli people, warning them.
As was done before, but I think there is something much beyond that, which is there are two colliding philosophies, a collision of school of thoughts. Obama is for engagement. Obama is, and he mentioned that in his speech, spoke about the distractive policy that the U.S. In the previous administration was spreading in the world, and now he's there to fix it. And he is all about engagement, while Prime Minister Netanyahu is all about even war or non-engagement. He
said the politics of fear.
Exactly,
he was actually using a line, I think, from the opposition of Netanyahu and Israel.
Exactly, and this is the difference that Obama mentioned, the difference between policy of fear and the policy of hope, according to Obama. And we saw a collision of two different philosophies. It's much deeper than the personalities. It's beyond that. And one can criticize Obama or not, but this is something that he promised, even in his election campaign, in the first election campaign, that he's going to do no wars. I think that, the Middle East is in chaos now, in turmoil,
it's in shambles.
also because of the U.S. policies. But putting that aside, this is exactly Obama's philosophy, which is 180 degrees than Netanyahu.
And the other pole than Netanyahu. But he goes even deeper than that. And before we touch on the overlining issue, Sheldon, actually, I want to ask you, because you represent the Democrats, abroad in Israel and whatnot. Prime Minister Netanyahu, I'm assuming this was directed to Prime Minister Netanyahu, when the American president said, and speaking to the Israelis, Israel is going to have a choice about the nature of the Israeli state and its character, and if it loses its essential values that are enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, I think that is something that has to be guarded against as well. That's warning against the loss of democracy, a direct drive at the Prime Minister.
Well, let's understand that Israel has defined itself always as A, a democracy, B, a Jewish state. Now, those two values, and this has been mentioned many times in different places, including the last proposed constitution, defined in those two terms. So now the question is there a conflict between being a Jewish state and a democracy? And if you give certain special advantages to Jews or to someone proposing something Jewish, are you then weakening the democracy? Now, this is a tension. This is something that's unique in Israel's democracy. Now, one of the reasons in 1967, after the Six-Day War, which the anniversary is coming up, after the Six-Day War, Israel did not annex the West Bank, did not annex any of the territories. And the reason it didn't was precisely because of the demographic issue. They were afraid of taking in, as citizens, 1.5 million Palestinians, which would then make it impossible to maintain Israel's character as a Jewish state. This was stated then, and this is one of the reasons that you have the problems that you have today.
But I'm looking at the president himself, the American president, actually warning Israelis. Mark, this is because I'm sure when you heard it, you were quite upset. Knowing you, who knows? I don't want to put a word in your mouth.
Thank you, Yael. I'm usually after to debate with you. Now I have you telling me what I'm thinking. But okay,
Israel going to have a choice about values enshrined in its declaration.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that has to be guarded as well. And that's a warning to the Israeli people that the line that Netanyahu is telling is actually dangerous to the makeup of the Israeli identity.
All right. Well, I have a few things to say about the speech. I think it was a very
interview.
okay, interview. I think this was a platform for the White House to speak directly to the Israeli people. I think this also has to be seen in the context of the coming negotiations over the Iran agreement, where the president's in trouble.
Which we're getting into.
But the thing that there are a few things that interest me about the president's remarks. One, he spent a huge amount of time talking about the Palestinian-Israeli talks, which are completely dead in the water, and despite the fact that his Secretary of State failed miserably a year ago, which he even mentioned to get them going in any way. I mean, he focused on this.
Almost every Secretary of State and every White House failed miserably on that front.
Here's the Middle East is going up in flames. ISIS is taking one city after the next, and Syria, Libya, whatever you want. It's a problem. Then the world's in a big mess, and a lot of it, Yaakov alluded to it a moment ago, is due to this president's policies. Now, with all that's going on, he's focusing on the Palestinian problem, and he doesn't even address excuse me, Sheldon. Excuse me. I listened to you. I mean, I heard your historical analysis there. I mean, the Palestinian problem is a pimple on what's going on in the Middle East. This president continues to pursue and to try to beat a dead horse, and he completely misunderstands the dynamics of the situation. And he has
with all
the audacity, Sheldon, to lecture Israel about democratic values. I mean, we just been witness to what is going on in the United States in places like Ferguson, Baltimore, and New York. I mean, with a black president, Afro-American president, and the United States 20, 30 years after the Civil Rights Revolution is still having these problems. Come on.
You forgot one statement that he made at the very end. He said that the Palestinian problem is a diversion. We have to focus on the real problems, such as ISIL.
And we have that soundbite, folks. Let's actually have a listen to that, if we can, when it comes to the ISIL statement that Barack Obama made when he referred to it. We have that bit of the interview, if we can have a listen.
The United States has a great investment in this, not just because we care about Israeli security, but because we also care about making sure that the region in a whole stays focused on issues like ISIL, which are so dangerous to everybody.
And given the makeup of the current Israeli government and given the Palestinian leadership in Ramallah, do you think there is a chance of you giving it another try in the next 18 months?
I don't see a likelihood of a framework agreement. I don't see the likelihood of us being able to emerge from Camp David or some other process and hold up hands and say,
you're not that naive.
No.
See, I want to, as we continue this point, because it's valid, Sheldon, but Yaki, because you've sat in those rooms with people, make discussions, Sheldon, Mark, I don't think that Yaki will agree with you that the Palestinian issue is a pimple, on the makeup. But when you're listening to that, Yaki, that basically is the giving up on that process and telling Israel there are more important things on the agenda, no?
Definitely not. It's not a pimple according to Obama. According to Obama, if he wants to leave three things in his foreign policy as a legacy, one is the Iranian agreement, the second one is Cuba, and the third one is some kind of a framework for a future Palestinian state. Now, he understands now, realistically, that he's going to leave it through the UN Council decision, Security Council decision. He mentioned that, and once the deal with the Iranians is concluded, we will see a French draft resolution initiative, and the Americans, and he said it clearly and loudly, they are not going to veto that, whether we like it or not. He doesn't see that as a pimple, and we can disagree, but this is his philosophy. More than that, we have to understand this guy comes from this philosophy from Hawaii, with the philosophy of aloha, or according to us, shaloha, and it's hugging, but this is
he wasn't a hugger.
But this is how this person thinks. You know, this is how the person thinks about engagement and moving forward. And he differs here, and he thinks that this is detrimental for a future Israeli policy if we don't have this framework agreement. Now, he's not going to pursue that through a Security Council, through a framework agreement, bilateral negotiations. He understands this is not going to happen, but he will leave that as a legacy, as an American legacy, as an Obama legacy, through a Security Council resolution.
This is the fallacy in the Obama approach here. He was telling you, we've got to, you know, we tried to get the framework agreement. We're not going to get the framework agreement, and we need to have peace. So how are we going to get it? We're going to veto the. We're not going to veto. We're not going to veto the French resolution on the Palestinian state. Now, how does that bring about a rapprochement?
No, he said differently. Although it's a nice interpretation.
Exactly
but you know what? Let's speak about his philosophy. He wants to leave in his legacy. You can, you can disagree.
So what?
You can disagree, but this is something.
Hold on. I have one question for Tal, one question for the lady. When he says, "I will veto or not veto," it's a threat that we've heard before, but it's been amplified in this interview.
Never like this.
I want to talk about the message to the Israeli people. It's a threat that's been amplified. It's still a threat, meaning it hasn't been implemented. It still has its merits as moving the Israeli government to some kind of maybe more concessions, and we're still away from it. But I want to talk about the message, and you mentioned Obama as a hugger. Well, actually, Martin Indyk tells Ilana Dayan that one of the problems that Obama has with the Israeli public is the fact that he's not a hugger, that he hasn't been warm enough to the Israeli public, and when he lectures Israelis in a way like that about Jewish values, I'm not sure that the message is really received. And when Obama, and there's a deeper problem here, when Obama speaks about the Jewish values of Tikkun Olam and that were the base of the American civil rights movement, he's speaking about American Jewish liberal values. These are, and this discussion all represents a growing rift between liberal American Jews and the Israeli government's policies. And that is one of the problems. He's speaking in many ways of the values of his own core base, but these are not the same values that are guiding the majority of Israelis.
But this message was intended also to the Jewish liberal voice in the United States.
And his personal identification with the issue of segregation, with Abram Joshua Heschel marching alongside Martin Luther King. And that personal identification shows a sympathy and a resonance.
But I also have to remind the table that Prime Minister Netanyahu is the man who called certain things President Obama did un-American. What's that? I mean, it's a tit for tat.
But that's also one other thing to remember
because
here is that
about Bush policies.
Yeah.
It's not just Obama's perception that there is a problem with Palestinian-Israeli relations, that we're not going to get a framework agreement. Netanyahu said so right after the elections, and they said a problem there. If Netanyahu said, "I don't see, we're not going to have a Palestinian state during my term," I mean, he said it outright.
Here's something that no one's picked up, by the way, in Israel, because the subtitles in Hebrew misled the public on this. The president never referred to the state of Israel. Very interesting, and I think it's almost Freudian. He referred at least twice in the beginning of his remarks and answers to questions to the right to have a homeland. Yeah. I mean, this is really interesting to me. And this president is very intelligent. He knows
it's not by coincidence.
It's not by coincidence.
Yes.
And this is this kind of harkens back to another time 70, 80, 100 years ago when we were talking about a Jewish national home in the land of Israel. The president's talking about a homeland in the 21st century. I mean, that tells you also where he's coming from. He made a big point about trying to be the friend of Israel, and a lot of the headlines today in Israel are talking about this friendly president. I don't think he's a friendly president. I don't think the Democratic Party is friendly to Israel. And I think the president's threatened veto is going to be a problem for Hillary Clinton in 2016.
But I do think, Yaki, we're going to get to all of that because I want to move us to what the reasoning behind this was. All of you said, or actually Tal and Yaki, you guys said that this interview was set in this timing. It's the beginning of June. We're ticking away towards June 30th. This has an agenda. And there was a reference apropos to Iran in the interview given yesterday to Israeli television. Let's see what the American president had to say about that.
I can, I think, demonstrate, not based on any hope, but on facts and evidence and analysis, that the best way to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon is a verifiable, tough agreement. A military solution will not fix it, even if the United States participates. It would temporarily slow down an Iranian nuclear program, but it will not eliminate it.
Now, why is this, Yakeshi, so hard for the Israeli people or the Israeli administration? Because yesterday it was broken down into pieces what the money that Israel is so afraid of Iran is going to do with $150 billion that are going to flow in, what it's going to go. He broke it down yet again for the Israeli people. That message was not received.
Because we strongly disagree and differ with the president on this issue. We don't think, as he thinks, and he mentioned that the Iranian regime has changed. He spoke about Rouhani, that he wants to fix the economy and it's a different policy. We understand that what was the same regime stayed. There is no change here. The second thing that he mentioned is about the sanction regime. He said, you know, automatically I can bring back the sanction regime, which here again we differ. We understand that once the sanction regime is over, is done, bring it back is impossible. It's impossible.
He said there's a snapback provision.
It's impossible.
They haven't agreed to it.
Yes.
If there will be an agreement.
Yes.
If that's not a part of it, there won't be an agreement.
And the third thing, which here we have the biggest problem, is that the United States and Obama, from the very beginning, from his administration, was not willing to say seriously that there is an option, a military option. And once you don't have and you don't put a military option on the table and you're willing to say that's an option, a credible one, because he came with the no Bush policy, the eliminating everything, including wars. So it's not a credible, it was not perceived it was not perceived as a credible threat, and that's why it was very hard to bring the Iranians to a much better agreement.
That's why an agreement is necessary.
But you know, he says an agreement is necessary due to the fact that the sanction regime is over. Could have been different. That there is no credible military option. It could have been different. You know, according to this president and his policies, this is the best possible agreement, which I agree. But if this president would have done things differently,
what is it to this point? He was breaking it down. The Israeli administration isn't really suggesting a different plan in many ways. They just say they want a better deal rather than this deal.
I think the Israeli administration's position on this is has been traditionally in the past 18 months of negotiations, and it continues to be, Netanyahu is playing bad cop. Netanyahu is saying all the bad things in the deal. Netanyahu is trying to strengthen the opposition to the deal, and by doing that, he also strengthens whoever thinks that Obama is giving or Obama is making too many concessions to the Iranians in the negotiations. So yes, when Obama talks about the sanction regime and Netanyahu talks about billions of dollars pouring into the Iranian economy, this is because the sanctions regime and the pace of lifting sanctions is one of the sticking points in negotiations. So this is something that Obama is playing good cop. Obama is playing the one who wants to go forward, and Netanyahu on the other side. And let's hope that somewhere in the middle, that's where it will settle at the end of the agreement.
He was quick to react, as Mark and Sheldon mentioned. Let's have a listen also to what Prime Minister Netanyahu had to say, straight line, as an answer to that Iranian statement by President Obama.
Challenges keep piling up around us. Among other things, there are missiles and rockets, most of which are supplied by Iran. When we talk about Israel's security, I trust that we, and first and foremost, rely only on ourselves. The deal that is forming between the superpowers and Iran is paving Iran's path to a lot of atomic bombs, as well as streaming billions to Iran's treasury. With this money, Iran will be able to keep arming our enemies.
No.
I know, Mark. I'm going to play.
No, but what's interesting here is the president tried to respond. He said, I'm going to deal with facts. I want to deal with actions. He gave none. He gave rhetoric. And as opposed to the Netanyahu speech in Congress, which changed the debate in the United States and led to the legislation which was just passed and signed by the president, which will give Congress a say in this agreement if there is ever an agreement. But the president. Huh?
There will be.
There will be, exactly. I mean, it feels like, I'm sorry, what the line of this interview is that this president is going ahead with this agreement, and I think that was one of the clear things coming out of this. But my question to you is, then, is it right, as the interviewer asked, for Israel to then act on its own? Well, I mean, that is the possibility.
Well, one of the things the president did here is he completely nixed the military option. I mean, that is a negotiating strategy, as you indicated, Yaakov. That's silly.
You wanted three objections to a military option?
Oh, no.
Vietnam, Afghanistan,
come on, Sheldon.
and Iraq.
You've got your head up your historical rectum. I'm very sorry. I mean, you always go back to history, Sheldon. I mean, we're dealing with the president. You're talking about an existential threat to Israel that the entire Israeli population, including the opposition, understands as.
And it's a different military threat because it's not a comprehensive war.
Right.
It's about striking.
That's
a
right.
Pinpoint striking.
But as he said, it'll set them back 2 or 3 years, but it will not
and
eliminate
that is
the
question.
problem. The only way to eliminate it
you know
is
what
to
he
bring
said?
Iran into
The president also is putting his head. He's also president's also putting his head in the sand when he says, first of all, when he talks about the military option and writes it off, but he also when the Israelis said, Netanyahu says that they're going to get this money and spend it on militarizing and terrorizing the Middle East, the president says, well, that wasn't on the agenda. Well,
he didn't really say that in so many words, but I'm asking you
that's
again.
What he said.
He said, what are you going to do? Have 10 Hezbollahs? There's a limit to how much...
There's a limit to that, but there's also, here's the question. Let's say there's no deal. That's also a bad option in many ways. That's another thing that, as Tal said, Netanyahu may be playing bad cop, and that's something standing in the agenda. But if at the end of the month there's no deal, then what?
Well, the Israeli position is there should be a deal. I don't think we're saying there shouldn't be a deal. We're saying we should be a deal.
One.
Make a different deal.
Yeah.
And before you relax those sanctions, before you do that, make the best deal you can. I mean, it was Netanyahu who pushed the sanctions. It was Netanyahu who brought the world to the sanctions. Obama embraced it. They finally got it. And then when they got him to the table, Obama said it. Sanctions brought the Iranians to the table. Then you're going to let him go, let him off the hook.
But sanctions, as he said quite rightly, has a very short shelf life. The reason that France agreed, for example, to the sanctions was to bring them to the table. If America were to say, no, let's do regime change, let's put more pressure on them.
We have a second left, but I want to ask Tal Shalev a question. An interview as such was played, and the Prime Minister heard it, etc., etc. Another low point, anything moving forward between now and June 30th, are these two men ever going to speak to each other?
Well, not until June 30th. It does seem, though, that they're eager to prevent further deterioration in many ways. Obama is reaching out to the Israeli public on the one hand, and Netanyahu is still probably sensible enough to know that it's not in his interest at this moment to have another feud with the president. And the president has nothing to gain at this point from a big feud with Netanyahu ahead of the Iran deal. His goal is to keep Netanyahu as quiet as possible in order to buy his own base support of the deal.
Sadly, all the time we have, I want to thank all my esteemed colleagues here around the table. This was fabulous and interesting. We have no answers, but we delved into it. When we get back, Israel marks 1 year since Israeli teenagers Gilad Shalit, Naftali Frankel, and Eyal Yiftach were kidnapped and murdered by Hamas terrorists in an incident that sparked last summer's war. We'll take a closer look at what changed in this past year. Stay with us. First, the news. I-24 News Morning Edition on this June 3rd, 2015, and thank you for staying with us. As we actually touch on the next story, which is a little bit hard, I think, for anybody living in the region to discuss. Eyal Yiftach, 19-year-old, Gilad Shalit, who was 16 years old, and Naftali Frankel, who was also 16 years old, were the 3 Israeli students abducted and subsequently murdered by terrorists while they were on their way home from school on the night of June 12, 2014. That's a year ago. Israel originally blamed Hamas for the abduction. Hamas leadership originally denied the involvement. Later on in August, 3 months after the teens were abducted, Hamas officially claimed responsibility for the abduction and murder of those 3 young men. But the incident itself sparked a revenge kidnapping as well of a Palestinian teen named Mohammed Abu Qadir, carried out by Israelis, and can be traced back also as the spark of the Operation Protective Edge, which was last summer's war between Israel and Gaza. But we are here to honor the lives and the memory of those 3 young men, as well as the 4th Palestinian. We are honored also to be joined in studio by Yaakov Naftali Frankel's uncle, Yedidia, and I want to thank you very much for being with me this morning. Now, Yedideh, before we delve into this and see what happened in the course of the last year, let's have a look at the following report about what happened a year ago and what it sparked, and take it from there.
On June 12, 2014, 3 Israeli teenagers were kidnapped while waiting at a hitchhiking post at the Alon Shvut intersection, right outside a Jewish settlement in the West Bank. 16-year-old Naftali Frenkel, 16-year-old Gilad Shaer, and 19-year-old Eyal Ifrach were on their way home. Shortly after boarding the vehicle, Gilad Shaer called a police emergency hotline to report the kidnapping. A recording of the call, initially placed under a gag order, was leaked to the public. In it, you hear Gilad Shaer's whispered message, "They kidnapped me," followed by shouting in Arabic from the kidnappers and several volleys of automatic gunfire. The phone call was treated as a prank, and the 3 teens were then brutally murdered. The kidnappers and murderers were identified as Marwan Kawasme and Amar Abu Isa, 2 Hamas operatives, one whom was released during the Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange in 2011. The 2 suspects had been missing from their homes in Hebron ever since the kidnapping took place. Within days, Israeli investigators strongly suspected that the teens had been killed, but lacked conclusive evidence. Israeli authorities considered the boys as having been kidnapped, and extensive search operations took place in the West Bank. On June 30th, 18 days after the abduction, a search party found the bodies of the 3 teenagers in a field northwest of Hebron. The site was less than 20 kilometers from where they had been kidnapped. On July 1st, a funeral service attended by thousands was held in the city of Modi'in. On July 8th, following increased rocket fire from the Gaza Strip, Operation Protective Edge officially began.
Yedidia Frenkel joining me in studio. You were Naftali's uncle. You just watched this report. I'm sure it is hard to remember. A year on, how is the family doing?
Well, it's not right that I'll say how my brother and my sister-in-law feel. They are the parents. There's no comparison. Someone who lost his child, and I'm just the uncle. But of course, the family carries this pain all the time. I don't know how much the parents, the pain is, how deep the pain is. Thank God they have other 6 children down to earth, and they have to take care of them. Both my brother and his wife Racheli work. They work hard, and now they also work and try. After those 18 days, there was a big unity in the country, and also thanks to the families. People don't know what was beneath. There were a few times that families were angry on the authorities, and one of my brothers, as far as I know, I don't want to give the only credit to another brother of mine, but maybe also the other families, but they decided to make all the efforts in order that there won't be a split between the families and the authorities. So they did a few things that people don't know yet, that also contributed to the unity.
Tell me a little bit about Naftali before all this.
See, Naftali is the second of 7 children, a very humble guy, good-hearted, but also when he just passed away when he was 16, what was special, he had many talents, but one was good-hearted to see also the children that are left behind. You know, in every class or group, there are children.
Somebody's on the side.
Yeah, and he caught them and tried to help in reading or in making homework or, you know, getting to speak to them. And that was a very, very high character of him that you didn't see it on day basis because he wasn't someone who made a lot of noise. Now, he was also talented in music. He played a few instruments and also sang in a choir. So I heard from also, his mother said his second voice, and it was in the funeral, but someone a few weeks ago came and told me he remembers in the synagogue on Shabbat when they sang El Adon, so he finished with the second voice this guy tells me he remembers it like today.
I can't imagine losing a child, and so many things followed the kidnapping, the brutal kidnapping and murder of Naftali and his two friends. What followed was also a very, very tumultuous, a very, intense operation and a war between Gaza and Israel. A year on, do you and the family feel that something was achieved within that war, that, that war that Israel carried out in Gaza achieved something for possibly the future of children on both sides?
See, I'm not the Minister of Defense. To ask me a military question whether the war was good, achieved, that's a more military question, and I'm afraid to say, and I don't want to use this stage because you asked me to start to say.
No, I'm asking you as a personal, and you may answer or not because.
No, I see. I think that wars usually they are not. You didn't think ahead to make a war. I think also they didn't plan to make a war. As far as I remember, they looked for the search for the 3 kidnapped children. Now, that's true that they knew that there was this record and they heard bullets. But I know from inside, it wasn't 100% that they were murdered, because sometimes gun is for threatening, and also if one was killed, maybe the other 2 are still alive. Yeah. So the assumption there isn't 100% proof that they were murdered. This I know from. Yeah. So now, so they search, and suddenly they saw tunnels in the West Bank, and we didn't know. So they started to search and search.
And it's not a blame game. It's just it's looking back at last summer.
Yeah, so I think, and also what's special about this war, and since I don't know yet the military, the aspects and everything, I think even also great experts don't know all the aspects. But I think it was from the 48 war, this war, no one in the middle of the war started to say it's a not fair war, like the first Lebanon war or the second Lebanon war. Here, everyone was.
There was that unity. That's for sure.
And the unity was real. And how do I know it was real? When there was the 30th day of in the Great Synagogue of the 3 boys, it was the middle of the war, and then so Yitzhak Herzog, today is the head of the opposition, he spoke. Because it was a unity thing.
And I think
no. And what's interesting? Suddenly, the wife of the prime minister came in, so everyone started to clap hands because to give strength to the head of the in the war, and also he said, in the war we don't fight.
I think that if people are clapping for all of Israel is clapping for the wife of the prime minister, that shows great unity. But indeed, I want to thank you so much for being here. You are still staying with us. I hope the memory of Tach and of anybody and everybody who was killed in the following conflict after that is cherished. And let's hope we have no more wars. But we are going to move on to the rest of the news of the day. Thank you. Ami Kaufman,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Yes.
We are going to start with the news that pretty much everybody is talking about. The FIFA scandal reached a new height yesterday when a FIFA president who was just elected 4 days ago, re-elected, decided that he will resign.
Possibly the most dramatic news of
it is the most dramatic
news.
I'm very happy about it.
I can see. I think there's something about happiness and joy over in that one. But let's hear how Sepp Blatter resigned. Let's hear the words themselves that actually the world was cheering on yesterday. Oddly enough, let's have a listen.
FIFA needs a profound restructuring. Although the members of FIFA have given me a new mandate, have re-elected me president, this mandate does not seem to be supported by everybody in the world of soccer. Supporters, clubs, players, those who inspire life in soccer. This is why I will call an extraordinary Congress and put at my disposal my function.
Those who conspire?
Those who conspire, yeah, what does that mean? You know, you asked me earlier, you said, you know, Ami, look, you're so happy that you might sing and dance. And I thought, you know, what would I sing about this news item? And the song that came to mind was...
Let me.
Go ahead.
Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead.
Oh my God, you read me like an open book.
No, we're American, dude. We're American. I knew that was coming.
I'm glad you raised that we're American. You know why? I'm very happy to be an American today because this happened because of the American FBI investigation.
True.
And that is why we are rejoicing today.
I actually think, but I'll take it one step further, and I think it was actually a conspiracy because Americans hate real football so much.
That's true.
That's true. To bring it down somehow. What is it? Call it soccer.
I know, you're right.
Yes.
And
it's gonna remain.
It's gonna. And first of all, the man does not know how to leave. I mean, if you're gonna leave, leave. He said he was going to leave at around somewhere between December and March. That'll give him almost a year.
He's got another year
to continue being as corrupt as he was until now, right?
I mean, we're covering everything up.
What is it with people that just don't know how to
leave? Don't know how to leave. Just leave. Yes. Okay.
Anyway.
And
on to Yemen. As we know from last week, there were reports of 4 Americans who were held hostage in Yemen. One of them was just released yesterday. His name is Casey Coombs. He was a freelance reporter for The Intercept. The Intercept, by the way, is the new online journalism project from Glenn Greenwald. So he was released, thankfully, and he's in good condition. Unfortunately, we also have a video of a French woman who was abducted in France who is still held hostage, and she posted that. Well, the organization posted a video of her pleading for her release. Let's take a look.
Mr. Hollande and Mr. Hadi, my name is Isabel. I've been kidnapped 10 weeks ago in Yemen, in Sana'a. Please bring me to France fast because I'm really, really tired. I tried to kill myself several times because I know you will not corroborate, and I totally understand.
Very worrying video, and she's the French.
She's the French. She's a translator, I think, and she was abducted in February. So she's been there, like she said, about 10 weeks now, and she has, she's not in good condition.
No, terrible. Terrible. Yes.
Off to China. You know how I like to do this sometimes, media comparison.
Yes, I
quickly.
Yes,
well, everybody's been, showing videos about the tragedy. 430 people are probably dead. 14 have been rescued. This first one is from the South China Morning Post, and we see that it's a pretty standard item where it shows all the pictures and everything. And while I was looking at the story, I was following what the Xinhua agency was doing, which is the official Chinese agency, and for about 4 or 5 hours, the main item on their news page was about the Chinese Prime Minister, Li Keqiang. And if we can take a look about what the pictures that were showed, for about 4 or 5 hours, the lead Xinhua
was what?
is just, no, this is first the South
the
China Morning Post.
That,
Second one after that is just pictures, basically, of...
look at him.
Look at him at the event. No pictures.
It's him.
There's no pictures of the boat that was drowning. It's just him.
It's just him. Fabulous. Okay. Sadly, all the time we have, I'll be looking at you like that. Ami, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next hour. Stay with us when you get back. Sharks, Flesh, everything, and Tel Heinrich is there. First, the news. It is still Wednesday, June 3rd, 2015. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News, the place you should be, because last I checked, I'm Yael Avi, and you want to listen to what I have to say.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is. I do.
Thank you. That's Ami Kaufman, who agrees with everything I say.
That's not true.
Yes, you do. Else you wouldn't be sitting here.
I disagree with you.
Completely. But on to our next topic, my lord. We've all seen the movie Jaws. I personally loved it as a kid.
It was a great film.
It was a great
whole
film.
series.
Right? The whole
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
No, the
yeah,
last one was ridiculous.
Well, it's true.
The last one was like Rocky V.
Yeah.
When they really go downhill.
The last one, they jumped the shark.
I
can't believe
okay.
I said that.
And for most of us, Jaws is where our knowledge of shark ends, right? Thankfully so. But sharks are actually one of nature's oldest and most feared creatures, and apparently they're also highly misunderstood. Created by Grande Exhibitions and a team of experts in sharks marine biology and oceanography cinematography, Planet Shark, Predator or Prey, is the only comprehensive shark experience to tour the world. And this amazing exhibition experience challenges the visitors' fears, misunderstandings, and ignorance on the plight of the world's most feared predator, the shark, meaning, you know, they just want to eat you. Leave them alone. But let's hear that straight from the mouth of the people who brought this exhibition to Israel. And we're going to go live to I-24 News correspondent Tal Heinrich, who is there in the flesh in the Israeli Planet Shark exhibition, being there as the prey. Tal, what are you seeing? Take it away.
Hello, Yael. So this exhibition presents years-long tracking of the shark's evolution, and this exhibition has one very clear goal. This is once the visitors, of course, children and their parents, enter this exhibition and they learn about the sharks and the world and their biology, they tend to change their minds about it because, as you said, apparently there are so many misconceptions and myths and stigma, stereotypes about this animal, and that it pushed it to an even greater extinction danger because, you know, by part thanks to the media, thanks to the movie industry, like you mentioned before, this is what happened. This animal gained a very negative reputation, and this exhibition is here to change it because their hope now depends upon raising public awareness of the real situation, which is deteriorating. And the very interesting and important thing about this exhibition is that it doesn't present real sharks here. The technology is basically used to stimulate the visitors' interest about this animal without actually having the real thing. But I have a real thing here, and her name is Maya Aviv, and she's, yeah, Maya, you're real, and your jaws are just lovely. And she is the production manager of this exhibition. Hello, Maya.
Hi, hello.
So what is there to see here, if not the real thing?
First of all, we decided not to bring real sharks to this exhibition. It's an unfriendly process traveling, making them travel around the world. That's the first thing we did. What we did do here is we created an atmosphere. It's a huge space with big screens with HD movies projected on them, and they tell the story of the shark, the evolution of the shark, how it changed from being the lead killer in the waters, and now it became one of the biggest preys in the water, thanks to people.
Well, it's a pet, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not as, you know, it's not as a dolphin, but it is still a creature which is important for our whole ecological system. It is the top ruler of the water ecological system, and we need to keep him in the same spot.
Yael?
Yeah, no, Tal, I'm wondering two things. Why are sharks so important to the environment? And what are the things that we so misunderstand about them? Because I have to tell you, I have a huge fear of sharks, with all due respect. I mean, how misunderstood are they? They want to eat us, no? I mean, it comes down to that.
Yes, of course. So can you tell us a bit about the misconceptions about the sharks? Because basically what we all saw in Jaws is that they want to eat us, especially if we bleed in the water.
First of all, sharks are deadly, yes?
Yes.
You wouldn't want to encounter one in the sea. But we are killing a lot more sharks than they are killing us. We are killing them in a rate that is going to bring to their extinction. In this exhibition, you can see there's a big counter that is projected on the floor, and it shows you how many sharks are being killed every hour in the world. Different shark products, like shark fins that are used for soups and different kind of foods, especially in China and Far East. It has been proven that it has no nutritious benefits. It's just some kind of a tradition over there. And besides that, you know, fishermen are looking for trophies. They want to get the biggest shark, the nastiest shark they can find in the water. And this is leading for a very, very poor situation for them.
Oh, interesting facts. And yeah, last week you sent me to feed a giraffe. I feel that I kind of got promoted this week to sharks. What will be next week?
No, Tal, I've sent you there because I was hoping for a real shark, and we wanted to see how you taste. But Tal, one last question about this exhibition. It's been traveling around the entire world. It's known as, you know, it's supposedly expensive, but how is it being received? I just want to hear a little bit more. How is it being received by people, by children who walk in and see these, you know, exhibitions, see the like flying sharks? If you can ask.
So I will ask that
Yes.
Maya, because I haven't seen children around. It's too early and they are still in school, so I have no children to ask. Or maybe they were here and gotten eaten by this multimedia screens. So Maya, once the children enter this exhibition and they see that there are no sharks here, how do they react to this? I mean, I'm just thinking about this on my way here. Last week I was at the zoo, and this got me thinking, maybe this is the new kind of zoo to present wild animals to children.
This is what we believe is the right way to present, especially going to be extincted animals. They walk in and the experience is so overwhelming and the screens are so big, and then they go to the different rooms and they see the different sizes of jaws and teeth, and they can learn a lot about the anatomical aspects of the shark, which they couldn't do if it was just swimming around in an aquarium.
Thank you so much. And then they say, Mommy, get me this shark. Okay, Yael, I totally feel under the sea. It's very chilly around here.
Tal Heinrich, I want to tell you, you are a goddess. You're the goddess of animals. And next week, we're going to put you in a cage with a lion to do a straight interview one-on-one. Because if anybody can handle it, it's you, Tal.
Have you seen my teeth, Yael? Have you seen them?
Yes.
I'm not scared.
Wonderful work, Tal. Thank you very much for this amazing item this morning. As we move along. Ami, my God, wait, I have to calm myself down. No, as you mentioned, it was rightfully so. We had a bit of a discussion as Tal Heinrich was trying to, you know, not be eaten by 3D sharks. Is that it is? I have heard that this exhibition is incredibly, well, not incredibly, it's slightly expensive.
It's pretty pricey. I don't know the numbers, but
yeah,
it's up there.
pretty pricey because it's like the 3Ds. But I love the idea of, you know, showing animals to people in virtual reality rather than caging them up.
That's true. That's a good point. It's much more friendly for...
You know, tell that to the Chinese. I don't think that's going to fly there, No. I love their zoos. Yes. And sorry, the viral spiral that is the rubber for you.
Yes. Let's talk about the story that is not going to die anytime soon. I'm going to give you a few items of our favorite Caitlyn Jenner.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I am. Okay. Caitlyn Jenner.
We're going to start with the Daily Mail, who brought a story that at the age of 65, Caitlyn Jenner, who was, of course, an Olympian, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, broke the record actually done by Obama a few days before when he joined Twitter, but she got over 1 million followers in Twitter in less than 4 hours.
Wow.
Less than 4 hours.
Over 1 million in less than 4 hours?
1 million, yes.
Because I think with Obama it was overnight or something like that.
Yeah, it took him a little longer.
Took him a bit longer, but which goes to show that I think if an American president, you know, just becomes a transgender, it can get so many more followers.
Maybe you should pitch that to him next time.
Yes, I think that's my next political career. Yes.
Okay, now, yesterday we were wondering, who does this woman look like now? Who does Caitlyn Jenner look like? Well, apparently, the web has decided that she looks like Jessica Lange.
Whoa,
Look at that picture there.
That is amazing. Look
at that picture, Lang.
Because I first went like Rene Russo, but that's Jessica Lange.
Now, the Daily Beast took it a step further, and they contacted Jessica Lange because Jessica Lange was trending on Twitter because of this.
Right.
And she said,
so
they told her that she was trending on Twitter, and her candid response was, "What does that mean?" So they had to explain what trending is. And then she said, "Oh, really? That's so wonderful. Well, now I'm going to have to look for that picture."
Oh, Lord. I love that. Listen, there is some form of classiness for people who do not know what Facebook is trending.
That's what she said. She said, "You see, I don't know any of this stuff. The internet. I have no clue when people use this terminology. I have to repeat it to understand." It was really, it's cute.
Really?
I think it's kind of cute.
It's kind of cool. How old is she? 60?
I don't know. 60. I don't know how she.
I will say though that my mother, who's 80, is an internet whiz. Okay. Whiz, she knows it. I'm sorry, Jessica, like, keep up with the times.
Yeah,
yes,
come on.
Okay, come on.
Okay. Now, people are going crazy, as this BuzzFeed item will show us. People are going crazy that she decided, Caitlin, to spell her name with a C instead of with a K, which is the most more popular way to do it.
Do we know why?
Well, we're going to see a few tweets about this, but TMZ, the popular site, said that it is a way to distance herself from the Kardashian family, where everyone there spells their names with K, with Kim and Chloe and stuff like that. I think we have a few tweets showing these responses.
There we go. Bruce Jenner going by Caitlyn instead of Caitlyn is the biggest screw you, yes, I said that, to the Kardashians I can think of. I love it.
Yeah, I think we have another one there.
Yes. The choice to be Caitlyn and not Caitlyn with a K is such a sly and solid burn. Even more props to you, lady, Caitlyn Jenner. Wow.
Burn. She's burning the Kardashian family.
No, she's from with a capital C.
With a
Yeah, she's. I'm trying to think of something
Anyway.
Yeah. Moving on.
Our last one on Caitlyn is a sport. Caitlyn, when she was Bruce Jenner.
That's going to come up. Yeah.
This is from TMZ Sports. She was a member of a very posh club called the Sherwood Country Club. It's a golf club, and there you have to pay. You have to pay like $300,000 just to get in.
Be a Jew or an African American.
But apparently she's not going to have as many rights now as a woman in the golf club, because there's she's going to be kind of downgraded.
Because it's one of these real clubs that go to marks. One of those old American clubs.
It is. It's
white.
White.
WASP. Anglo-American WASP. You and I would not be allowed in.
No,
they'll find some sort of a thing, like the quota's full, I know you're blonde, but you're a Jew.
They'll see my schnoz.
Exactly. I know you sound like a Texan, but we know you're, what's this name, Ami? Yeah, okay.
Kaufman?
Kaufman, out with you. Okay, but now also women. Caitlyn's not yes.
Okay, enough of Caitlyn. I think that was enough for one day.
I think I'm good. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Now, tell me what happened. I have this piece from The Independent about a picture that was going viral on Twitter that a man took while he was on an EasyJet plane. And tell me what you would do if you saw this picture. This man took a picture, and we'll show the picture on internet, where the technician is on the side of the plane putting duct tape on the engine.
Yes, I'm getting off.
You're getting off, right?
I'd be like, the hell with this. Yeah, I'd be, bye-bye. I'd be, first of all, I'd be, hello, check.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, EasyJet says that this is not duct tape. This is called speed tape, and it is just fine. Do not worry about it.
Wait, people bought that?
Yes.
Yeah, this is not duct tape. It's speed tape.
And it works.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, folks, don't, everybody after me. 2 exits, 1 here and there. Yes, bye-bye. Okay.
And last week we were duped. You and I were duped.
What?
You remember the Charlie challenge? Yes. With the pencils going left and right? We fell for that. That was a viral. Yeah, that was a viral marketing gig for a new movie that's coming out. This movie is called The Gallows, and we actually have a trailer to show you.
Wow.
Of The Gallows, and we fell for this.
That's my fault. No, dude, I led you that way.
Wow.
Let's have a look.
I fell for it.
Let's have a look.
I fell for it too.
Charlie, are you here?
Clearly, Charlie was there.
We fell for it.
Okay, that's kind of creepy.
I know.
Yeah, no.
It's a scary.
Yeah, but
I
did. We totally fell for it. We totally fell for it. It's one of those like Blair Witch Project things. Yes.
Yeah, we fell for that.
We're old, Ami. We're old. We're old. Yes.
Do we have time for some more?
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, this is from Mashable. There's this thing that goes all over the world, people riding their bikes naked. It's an environmental thing to use less gas and stuff. It's called the World Naked Bike Ride. Yeah. But one man apparently was a bit too excited.
Yeah.
I like the headline. He's overly excited. So they told him to put some jeans on and get the hell out of here.
Barrett from World Naked Bike Ride in England.
Yeah.
How excited did he get? What did he do?
You're trying.
Okay,
no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go. I'm just going to leave it to your imagination.
Okay.
And one last one quickly.
The image. Okay, quickly. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it with you on the whole sex thing here. I'm sorry about that. There's a male version now of Hooters. In the States there's a Hooters.
Finally.
Okay. It's called Tallywhackers. This is the male version of Hooters, which is opening up in the States. Hopefully, it'll turn into a chain.
I don't think that's as catchy as balls. I would have called them balls.
You would call it, yeah. I don't even know what tallywhackers is, for example. So the reporter here in the Mirror actually asked this, and the owner, apparently, his grandfather used to say, "Stop playing with your tallywhacker."
Gotcha.
So that's why it's called tallywhacker.
I'm going to stop playing with my tallywhacker right now. If I had one, my God, I did say that on the air all the time. We have stay with us when we get back. More on economy, a close look, and first the news, obviously. Yes. I-24 News Morning Edition. It's the end of the show as you know it, but we've got 16 minutes to go, and they're the best ones because Daniel Roth is here. Finally.
They are the best ones. The best 16 minutes every week.
Every week is with Daniel Roth when you are here. Hillel Flood with us as well. We're going to get to you in a minute. I'm not introducing you yet. I'm psyching myself up. So hold on. But Daniel Roth of The Economy magazine today with an important story about Nigeria.
Yes, Nigeria is going through incredible turmoil. It is Africa's largest economy, first of all. And,
understatement of the year, isn't it?
Yeah. And actually last night there was a major bombing in a market, and so they've got terrorism they're dealing with, Boko Haram. This is a big, big deal. On the other hand, they've got their currency is inflating like mad. The oil crisis, they've got incredible levels of corruption. FIFA levels of corruption.
That is phenomenal. That's going to become a term now.
I hope so.
FIFA level of corruption.
Maybe now I'll make it into Wikipedia.
That's a term. Yes, exactly.
The country's going through incredible changes. They also just elected a new president after many, many years of Goodluck Jonathan.
Right, and then who's promised on it. But we have a report.
Let's take a look at it.
Let's take a look and then break it down.
Incoming Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari is stepping into office at a hard time for Africa's largest economy. Corruption and terrorism have been ongoing, and beyond that, the country was rocked in recent months by massive fuel shortages in the wake of a strike that essentially brought all business to a standstill. Since early March, with the currency hitting record lows and slumping global oil prices, national fuel importers had stopped delivering gas to put pressure on the government to pay back $1 billion of debt accrued during the outgoing administration.
Oil marketers were afraid that if they didn't get all their money, the new government was not going to honor the commitments. So they wanted to extract as much as possible under this administration before Buhari comes in.
Though the strike was called off last week and gas stations are refilling their stocks, the situation was dire. Airlines, mobile carriers, and banks were all on the edge of closure. Nigeria, which has boasted 7% growth annually over the last decade, is Africa's biggest oil producer with 2 million barrels a day, but imports petroleum as well because they lack in domestic refineries. AFP explains that the government pays importers the difference between the lower consumer price and the real market price, which many say is a fraud-laden system.
We know there's a lot of corruption in the oil industry. We expect that the first few things they should tackle is corruption and power in the country. It's a major issue.
And the incoming president says he aims for change during his 4-year tenure.
Our long night has passed, and the daylight of new democratic governance has broken across the land.
Buhari, who ruled Nigeria after a coup d'etat from the end of 1983 until 1985, is seen by many as a leader equipped to take on the Boko Haram threat the country is facing. Meanwhile, questions remain about his ability to govern on economic fronts in a country that sorely needs it with a 30% unemployment rate.
So Daniel, an inside look into Nigeria, Daniel Roth of The Economy magazine. This new, I'm going to start with Buhari, okay? He's supposed to bring on this new change, but elected mostly on the ticket of what? Of promising to, it's more about like the fight against Boko Haram, I'm assuming, rather than the economy.
He's, you know, in case it wasn't clear, he was a military dictator for just under 2 years in the 80s. He was an oil minister in the 70s and involved in economics in the 90s, but he's first and foremost a military leader. He's seen as a strong arm who can take care of Boko Haram, which is, for most of the world looking in on Nigeria,
a huge problem,
seems to be the biggest problem. Now,
but
My guess is that most Nigerians would say that the economy, as most people in the world say, the economy is the biggest problem that they're facing. Like I said, the government revenue relies enormously on oil, and oil prices have gone down about 40% over the last year. It's
sad to say, but we see that so much in Africa, the level of corruption in countries that do have natural resources. And not to point fingers of why corruption and organization of whatnot, but Nigeria it's actually more so than other countries on that continent, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's one of the reasons is that there hasn't been until this election, which just happened
recently.
The inauguration was on the 29th of May, so just days ago. Until then, there hadn't been any repercussions for Goodluck Jonathan's administration. There was, and when there's not elections or any kind of changing of power, not that I'm advocating other kinds of changing of power, but when you look around and you see that you're not going to lose power, you start to think that you can do anything, and that's what's been happening in Nigeria in the oil sector. Particularly, we see high levels of corruption.
And Buhari, just to finally to look at this, in the idea, and Buhari himself, do we think? Analysts, what do people say that other than the Boko Haram, is he going to deal with the economy, or does his track record of,
He's gonna try.
He's gonna try.
He's gonna try. There's again, his focus is his real background is military. He has experience in the oil sector. He just announced he's going to take over the oil portfolio and try to fix it himself. We'll see what that leads to.
Yeah. Okay, but again, an important country also in the makeup of the economic, I think, powers or the oil, and especially the oil market worldwide. Central, very much so. Great. Daniel Roth, always so educational to have you in studio. You're not moving anywhere.
I shan't.
Yeah, exactly. You are sitting in place because it is the time. Wait, I'm going to get this right. Okay. For Hillel Fuld. Hold on. Okay, for Hillel Fuld, who is the CMO, I'm reading this from a device, who is the CMO of Zula, startup advisor and tech blogger. And you owe me $10.
Nice.
Who sent me this text earlier today saying that $10 if you get it right, because I usually get it wrong. But that's who you are. Okay, with anything and everything that tech...
Now that we're all totally embarrassed. Yeah, let's go on.
Yeah, that was the point of it. And ka-ching. But what do you have for us in the world of amazing, innovations on the cutting edge of technology?
Well, the truth is we had to choose between a lot of stories. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
We have, a few minutes, and now that I've wasted a minute of them, let's talk about Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett invested in Israel.
Hold on, stop. What do we think about Warren Buffett?
Actually, interestingly, there are a few billionaires who I'm kind of, I think, oh, this guy's okay. There's something about him. And Warren Buffett is, other than the fact that he only drinks Coca-Cola, one of them.
Well,
no, because he's the expert on millionaires we like. Yes, Warren Buffett.
You just downgraded him from a billionaire to a millionaire.
Sorry, billionaire.
But the top list of the billionaires in the world, they're all involved in Israel now. Obviously, Bill Gates and Carlos Slim. And now Warren Buffett, it was his first investment. He's made acquisitions in the past. This is his first investment in Israel. He invested in a company along with GE Ventures to kind of like personalize the energy use of mobile networks. So if you're a mobile network, you have people using more data, you need more energy.
Right.
If you have less data, you need, so they kind of help you efficiency, basically, energy efficiency.
Energy efficiency.
So he invested in Israel.
Co-evolution networks.
Co-evolution, correct.
How much did he invest?
In the 20s, I believe, 22, but
22 what?
Million.
Million.
Yeah.
Right.
No, not billion.
Yeah.
That would be a nice investment.
Okay.
And that's a really kind of exciting, more than the actual capital he put in or necessarily the technology. It's just a big kind of like stamp of approval or validation for Startup Nation. It's not really a startup, but for Israel as a technology giant in the world.
Right.
So that's really, really exciting. We
picked the wrong profession, Daniel.
She says that every time, by the way.
Did. I know.
She's going to be a big high-tech CEO one day.
How do we get to be, I want to be a CMO. I'd like to...
Yeah, how do you get to be a CMO?
We can talk about that offline.
You would know if you were a CMO. Yes,
so that's really, really exciting. There was another exciting piece of news this week. A company called Nexar, founded by this guy, Eran Shir, who worked at Yahoo Israel before on innovation, and then he joined Aleph VC. He's an amazing, amazing entrepreneur, and he founded now a company that you're going to love. Think about crowdsourcing, like Waze and many other companies, but for safe driving. So now you can tag someone who's a hazardous driver, and if you're driving near that person, you'll get a notification, stay away from that dude. He's dangerous.
Hold on, that's almost like name and shame campaign.
Well, it's not meant to do that. It's meant to increase safety on the roads.
No, so like you would, wait a second, hold on. So if you're next to a guy and it recognizes the car as what, this has a crazy driver?
Well, first of all, the actual technology recognizes that this guy cuts people off and he drives, in an insane way. But you can also, if someone cuts you off, instead of like, doing something that you might regret later, you just tag him and say, this guy's a hazardous driver. And it's using crowdsourcing, which we're using in many other things, but why not use it to save lives, right? We're using crowdsourcing in many, many things.
It's phenomenal, but I have to stop us and break this down for a second, but because...
We're not going to get to any other stories today.
No, because Daniel Roth and I are going to try and figure out how Israelis will take to this technology. Because, come on.
There's just going to be people pressing buttons all the time. Because it's going to be the proverbial, it's going to be a technological version of giving the finger.
Well, that's what we're trying to avoid, is giving the finger. But it's going to start in other countries, and obviously Israel's going to catch on like we do.
I was about to say, if it
trend.
starts in other, it should start in a place like Britain. It should start in a place
the US,
like,
by the way, even the US. Even the US. The US driving is a lot better than it is
No, the
here.
US is much. I'm the first one to say Israeli driving is horrific.
So they launched at a conference this week called the Recode Conference. Recode's a website that was actually just acquired by Vox Media. They're Walt Mossberg and Kara Swisher, if you know these guys, big journalists in tech.
Huge.
Yeah. No, well, you should know them anyway. They're amazing. So they launched at that conference this week. That was very exciting. He's a serial entrepreneur, just an amazing entrepreneur, and I think that they're going to do amazing things.
Amen. And what else?
That's really exciting. Google bought another Israeli company this week.
Stop. Who?
Pulse.io. So they acquired the company. I don't think the amount was disclosed as far as I know, but the bottom line is, as I keep saying every time I'm here, right? These tremendous empires of technology are even looking at us is amazing. But Alibaba and Baidu, we're talking about Baidu in a second, and Google and Microsoft and Yahoo, and they're all here. So if Google, Google's buying companies left and right. They've bought so many. So here's another one, Pulse.io.
And what does Pulse.io do?
So I'll just tell you, they announced it this week at Google I/O, the big developers conference, and it was kind of like...
Right, we even did a segment about that.
So Pulse.io helps you as a developer, if you're developing Android apps, to speed up your apps and just increase optimization and make sure your app works well, because, not to get too technical, but Android's a little bit of a fragmented ecosystem. There's so many Android devices, so many sizes, so many processors. So this helps you kind of like optimize it and make sure that it works, and it works fast and well.
Amen. And another run for the money for Apple, I'm assuming. I have no idea what I'm saying.
Speaking of giants. Speaking of giants investing or taking part in what's going on here, Baidu, right? Baidu is the Google of China. They have, I think,
Baidu?
Baidu.
Baidu. I even know Baidu. Yes.
Baidu
okay, Google China.
Yeah, I mean, they're huge. They have 75% of search traffic. They're an absolute monster. And so now they're collaborating with Taboola, another Israeli company that you've for sure seen on the web, where it says, you like this article, you might also like this.
Yes.
We in fact use them on our website here at I-24.
So Taboola is a very big company. They're collaborating with anyone and everyone. Yahoo Japan signed with them, and so now they're collaborating with Baidu, which is again a huge stamp of approval for the Israeli. It's just an amazing accomplishment that Baidu even looks at us. They're such a big company.
It's 75% of traffic in China, or 75% global traffic?
No, China. That's actually why one of the reasons.
Isn't that like 75% globally?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
It's huge, but that's basically one of the reasons that this collaboration happened, because now they have an into other markets through Taboola, and Taboola now is into China. So it makes all the sense in the world for both, mutually beneficial.
I will chime in with the important side note of, I love their name.
What, Taboola or Baidu?
Taboola.
Yeah,
Taboola.
Both amazing.
Okay, and
Adam
more
Singolda,
successes.
Amazing entrepreneur. So, I mean, there's, again, so many other stories, but one other story, and we're very highly relevant to what we're doing right now, because we're streaming on Meerkat, an Israeli app in Jaffa, here.
Yeah.
We're streaming to my followers right now, real time. You can't see it in the camera, but it's behind the camera.
It's behind, and we're live streaming.
Yes, so we're live streaming the live stream. Kind of.
That is the future. And my brain just exploded.
Exactly. So it's a very, very interesting trend in terms of the ability to be. You're basically a broadcaster now. Anybody can be a broadcaster. You don't need a studio. You can now broadcast. I came here and
once again, I will stop you with that very ominous line. Anybody can be a broadcaster is the most terrifying line. Both Daniel and I can hear.
Well, yes and no. I agree with you. Like everything can be abused, but I'll tell you that I was just on the way here, and I had this beautiful view in front of me, so I went live. One click, one tap, I'm live. 300-something people, I believe, 320-something people just jumped in. Again, remember what time it is in New York and what time it is Pacific, right? It's the middle of the night, and here it's early in the morning.
Not only that,
they came in to watch.
I'm wondering now, because this technology, in many ways, actually, Meerkat is something that can replace what we're doing here right now.
Well, yes, in theory.
Technically, it will replace.
But no one's going to replace the professionals, because at the end of me holding a phone like a selfie.
Dude, that's what they said about Instagram.
It's a fair point. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Well, what's the news? They originally launched on iOS, and then Twitter bought one of their competitors called Periscope, and it was like, oh, is Meerkat going to die? But then they launched on Android before Periscope.
Right.
So they actually beat Twitter, the big Twitter. They beat them to Android and launched on Android. And, without getting too philosophical or too deep into the debate, I think it's a silly debate. We know that there's, there's tremendous giants in each space, and so there's room for both to win. There's no one winner takes all. I think Meerkat and Periscope are both going to survive, but Meerkat did launch on Android. They're doing incredibly well. Amazing traction.
Periscope is the one that was launched by
Twitter. Well, they were acquired by Twitter. I can tell you that personally, when I go on Meerkat, I have hundreds of people.
No, but Periscope being acquired by Twitter, that's what I'm saying. That I think it's being acquired for organizations that want to become news giants.
100%.
And that's one thing that Twitter wants.
Think
it wants
about
to become
protests
a news
around
giant.
the world. Think about events where anybody can broadcast now. There's no barrier anymore. I don't need a studio. I don't need professionals. I mean, no one can beat Yael, but still.
Nobody can beat me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I will be meerkatting myself forever. But no, sadly, all the time that we have it was Meerkat, right?
Yeah,
that
that's
was the
it.
last
We're good.
one. And I think
I can go on for hours if you want.
No, I have a feeling you probably could, but I want to go home. And I think Daniel wants to. Hillel, thank you so much for being with us, Danny, as always. And of course, do not forget to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, all these social networks, I-24 News Morning Edition. And the most important thing of your life will be tomorrow morning when you tune in again to check out another edition of the Morning Edition. Thank you for being with us. Now, the news.